What up, YouTube? Welcome back to the tavern. I am your host, as always, over here, Kendall Vanderbilt, and today we are going to be wrapping up our first iteration of the Dynasty Buy Low, Sell High series. We're going to do a few of these as the market is always changing constantly. This was just the post-draft iteration, and so we're going to be covering the tight end position today. So grab a drink, relax, let's get into it. First player we're going to talk about, Luke Musgrave. So why is Luke Musgrave's value a little bit lower than I think it should from a market standpoint? Well, he had an injury riddled last season, and that made people forget how solid he was to start the season as a rookie. He had stiff competition from Tucker Kraft. I think we kind of knew that coming in to the season. There wasn't a 100% chance he would have the starting job. It was most likely. And, you know, the idea is with the other tight end breakouts, people generally assume that all these young tight ends are crushing it. And people assume that, you know, Luke Musgrave, if he was going to be good, if he was going to be in that tier, we would be talking about him in that tier. But, you know, you get injured, your team does well, but you're not there for it for the most part. You're going to get forgotten a little bit. But he is talented. So, kind of segues into why are we buying low on Luke Musgrave? Well, he did win the job in camp, so just because you're a good prospect doesn't mean you're going to show up, and he did. He won, started right away. It was very solid, very early on a team that has a ton of other targets and a lot of weapons, and a quarterback that's not really loyal to anybody. So I think there's some real consideration that he didn't have to get targeted a bunch. If he wasn't outright the best, they had other options. Even just in any given set, this wide receiver core for this Packers team is ridiculous. And the fact that Musgrave was still getting targeted at a reasonable clip as a rookie, which almost never happens at the position, that's pretty significant. He also had 1.28 yards per route run as a tight end, which is fantastic. That is a very, very good metric that he is and will be looked at as a pass-catching weapon. So I just think he's going a little bit too low. The idea here is that tight ends are weird to trade for. The top-end ones, no one really wants to lose a top end at a onesie position because there's such safety in knowing that you never have to worry about the trade market, really. If you have your guy, if you have Kincaid, if you have a LaPorta, you're set. You're kind of set forever, and you don't want to give them up. And if you do, you know what it's like to deal in the bottom end of the tight end barrel, and you don't want to go there. And if you're going to go there, you're going to win the trade. It won't be fair. And at the same time, bottom end tight ends, sure, if you're barely relevant, you're going to go for whatever someone can get. But a starting tight end that still puts up points, for the most part, the guys you want to trade for are never going to be cheap enough at face value compared to what you can pay for a wide receiver or running back. That's typically a more valuable position. So, you know, that's why we're kind of targeting guys like Luke Musgrave, because we can get them just a little bit lower than they should. We could probably get them for the same price we can get guys that we have listed lower and have lower upside potential. Him in that offense could have some decent upside. So I think like in recent keep trade cuts, you could flip Chase Brown for him because he's kind of steamed right now. I've seen him as low as just throwing out, 2 threes to get him. I think you could look at some of the hyped-up rookies from this year that are just more enticing, are still technically a third-round pick, but, if you have... I'm a big fan of Jalen McMillan, but now he's getting hyped up everywhere else. You probably can do McMillan for Musgrave straight up. I've seen a league where somebody, really wanted Garendo. I love Garendo over on San Francisco. I think he's going to have a long road now that McCaffrey signed the extension. But still, there was a pocket of time where I was seeing that you could get Garendo for Musgrave, maybe have to throw in a fourth or something like that. But it's along those lines of you can get him for sub-second-round value, and that's, I wouldn't say a steal, but I think it's a good pocket of value to go for him. Moving on to player number 2, like the thumbnail looked at, TJ Hockenson. So he is a buy low for me. I know a lot of people are down on him. It's kind of why we're buying. So why are people down on him? Well, he had a pretty significant injury. He has a quarterback change, which is definitely negative. It is a rookie. It's a rookie that might not even be that good. And I think the most part is it's a culmination of factors, but it's TJ used to be in this tier of tight ends, right? That he was just, I mean, they were right up there. It was Mark Andrews, TJ Hockenson, Travis Kelce. It was the super elite tier. You could throw Kittle in there. But it was like Kittle wasn't even on the elite tier. TJ was. Now there's this new elite tier of LaPorta, McBride, Kincaid. Hockenson is just not being associated with that top tier anymore. He's being associated with the middle tier of tight ends. And I don't think that's necessarily true since he's younger than a lot of those guys. And well, we'll get into why he's by here, but that's why he's low. He's not in that top tier anymore. New QB, big injury, combination of factors, right? When you have one red flag and then you have three of them, people want out fast. So why is he a buy? The injury's less of an issue for me because speed and burst weren't like a crazy elite thing for him. I mean, he was very good, but I don't think it's what made him good. So if he's a little bit slower for a year, I don't think that's terrible. Maybe it gets him out of some blocking assignments. Who knows? I buy that he was targeted at a crazy high rate on a good team because he's good at getting open, has a feel for the position, just has a feel for how his position can be a pass-catching weapon, and how to earn those targets from a quarterback versus being a scheme fit, if that makes sense. Just every time I watch him, I see a guy who has high football IQ, who can earn these targets, who really knows how to read a defense. And he's also just a hard worker, and so people want him to do good. Coaches want him to do good. Quarterbacks want to throw him the ball because he is a nice guy. And I think that goes a pretty long way. I think he's going to be back to his old self probably by the end of this year. I think he's going to start slow. But on an offense that, if JJ can get good by the end of the year, I mean, you're not buying him because he's going to win you a title this year. If you're good enough to make it to the playoffs, Hockenson might be relevant by the end of the year. And I think by the end of the year, he's going to be in that back near that top tier. The NFC North has great offenses as well now. Detroit's fantastic. The Bears should be much better on paper. It's a division that all of a sudden can have a lot more shootouts. So he's a higher end tight end than people I think are giving him credit for probably another 5 years with how young he is. So how to buy him? If you miss out on Sinnott or Jatavian in drafts, this is kind of my go-to buy low guy with still a lot of upside. I think like a 2025 late first is probably fair for him, but I think you can do better. Honestly, I think he's lower than that. I think you can probably get at least a third back, if not more. Maybe you can get another piece that you like back. But I've seen him really go for 2-2s, like 2-2s and a 3, somewhere around there. I think 2-2s is a bargain for a dynasty talent of this caliber. So that's kind of what I'd be looking for with him. Moving on, third buy low is going to be one of my favorites, Pat Freiermuth. So he's low. He's low. The community's low on him, I should say, because he was part of a terrible offense in Pittsburgh. And he was associated with that terrible offense, and he couldn't rise above it. Everyone wants the new and exciting things, and he's just lost his luster, right? The offense was bad, but he wasn't even like outstanding or crazy when the offense was better. He was good, not great, and so now he's kind of getting thrown in the bin. So why is he a buy? Is it all in the offense? Well, it's part of it. He's a buy because he's only 25 and he hasn't really had a good offense yet. He's had an okay offense. He's never had a good offense. So he's got nothing but upside in terms of if he were on a team that threw the ball a little bit more, had a higher touchdown rate, didn't always win through defense and running the ball. If he had just a few things go his way, he'd be looked at in a lot better situation. He is a good player that's just never been in a great situation. If I think he could easily be the second passing options to Pickens on the team. I don't think they're done. I think they're going to add maybe one more wide receiver. But the fact is, right now, if you just look at the way that offense works, he could very easily have a Sam LaPorta type of role with Pickens being more of a field stretcher and them needing a little bit more activity in the middle of the field. We know his quarterback loves to throw to tight ends. Historically, did it a lot over in Seattle. Even if a lot of that was Pete Carroll and coaching. There's no doubt that Russell Wilson, through all of that experience, is very comfortable throwing to tight ends. Pat Freiermuth is a trusted veteran target, and I think they're going to link up quite a bit. So I think he has a very safe floor with a high target share because of how the offense should look. And he's got real upside, particularly in the touchdowns, but just as well as just overall targets. So safe floor with some upside. No one's giving him credit for the upside. Smash buy low, and he's got no luster, no crazy appeal. With the rookie drafts having either most of them are done by now, and so everyone's kind of got that rookie hot new thing fever. Kind of dips him down a little bit more as people are more into Benson and Jatavian Sanders than Pat Freiermuth. So I've seen him go for a second-round pick straight up. Fantastic. I love that. I'd even buy him for a second and a third. I wouldn't go any higher than that realistically. I don't think you need to. We're buying low because we're buying windows of opportunity with these players. We're not buying on them necessarily because we think they're going to smash ceilings. We're buying them because there's a market overcorrection, I think, and there's an opportunity here. So you could even spin like a lower end wide receiver rookie prospect this year, like plus a third. So like in the same above example where I like McMillan, you could do a McMillan plus a second or a third to get him. I've seen him go for like Malachi Corley or Jermaine Burton straight up, which typically are late second, early thirds. I've seen him go for, if you have Marshawn Lloyd or Jalen Wright, I've seen that be a straight up trade where the pick isn't super valuable, but those people are kind of targets that are rising post-draft. You can definitely make that happen as well. Let's move on to the highs. Let's see if I can wrap this video up a little bit faster. I know my last ones ran pretty long, so I'll try to do a quicker one for you here. Sell highs, we're going to talk about David Njoku. So why is he high? Pretty simple. He came off a great season. He was one of the main weapons for that team. He was a bright spot and otherwise pretty bad offense. He went from like an upside, we'll see how he does, we think he's good, to no, he was just a very, very solid top-tier producer at the position. Very, very good. Why are we selling him if he's all of a sudden hit his breakout? Well, I think that could be his ceiling. He's not old, but he is older. He's 28. I don't think he'll be 29 by the end of the season, but he is older. I think the team wants to run the ball and win with the defense. So I think that caps his upside. I don't think Jerry Jeudy is amazing, but I do think Jerry Jeudy will take targets away from him. More targets than we want to. And they have some young wide receivers that if they develop a little bit more, you take what projects to be a mediocre offense, winning through defense, running the ball, then you put some more targets in there, and maybe quarterback play doesn't have to get better, and you have a low ceiling that he was able to take advantage of last year because the rookies didn't develop. They had a really condensed offense with just no weapons, and he ended up being that guy. And I think he is probably the biggest loser from adding these other weapons. So I think he can be good, not great. And I think, going from, how good he was last season, I think he could disappoint people where he goes in drafts and be disappointing because that team doesn't look like they have. You don't want to own a dynasty asset on the Cleveland Browns, in my opinion, based on the offensive ecosystem. And so I'm going to take the long-term sort of future bet that most Cleveland Browns players go down in value farther than people think, and I'm on there with Njoku. So let's sell high while he has a nice price tag. So how do we sell? Well, if you're in a soft rebuild or even if you're not rebuilding, I think actually by the end of the season this will be a perfectly fine play. I like trying to tier down to like a Ben Sinnott or Pat Freiermuth if you can. I think David Njoku is pretty clearly above both of those guys. So if you can tier down to one of those guys plus get a pick back, I'm very happy with that. Now, Sinnott's not cheap, and people are really into him, so that might not be realistic. It might be more like tier down to Jatavian Sanders plus, get yourself a second or something along those lines. I like that because I think the upside of those rookies might even be better than David Njoku. They just don't have a safer floor. Freiermuth, I think, is the clear one, where someone might not be excited about Freiermuth's output. They can be excited about Njoku's output, and you get to, I'm saying tier down, but you actually get a guy who's, 4 years younger, so 3 to 4 years younger, has, not a crazy upside case, but you're also ending up with probably an extra second or a third round pick, which could become next year's Ben Sinnott of sorts, right? So I think that's the general play to profit. If you can tier up to TJ Hockenson, I think that's fantastic. I think the TJ Hockenson owner wants to get off the boat. Unless you really look at it, I don't think there's a crazy reason to be off of David Njoku. So because of how low the market is on Hockenson, especially when I look at startup rankings, I think that you can take Njoku and add a very small piece to it. It wouldn't take much to get up to TJ Hockenson. You could even just offer him kind of straight up, see where the owner is at, and see how crazy he thinks you are. I think you could. I'd have to look at this one a little bit more. I don't have a compensation in mind, but I think there's a lot of small additional players I would add, little upside dart throws that I don't think are worth a ton. They could blow up, right? But most cases they don't. And I'd be very, very good with that general strategy of tiering up, giving up a little bit, Njoku plus a little bit more. Go get yourself Hockenson. Next player is going to be Travis Kelce. He hits these videos every year of sell high, I think, for the most part. The problem is, in a lot of these videos, we're all kind of under the impression that, look, there's just no market for Travis Kelce. Everyone knows that the train's going to come off the track at some point. He's very, very hard to trade. The owner wants to value him like they value him, and no one else wants to buy at that price, knowing it could be dust pretty soon. But there's an immediate pocket right now where the owners who thought they were going to have to ride him till the tires wore out, well, he just signed that extension for 2 more years. So while that extension is fresh in people's minds, while they don't see an immediate end to it, I think you have an opportunity as the Kelce owner to actually get off the train and actually get the price you want to or close to it. And this is your last chance. After this season, he's got the 1 more season, and then you just can't even get anything for him. So that's why he's high for obvious reasons. Super Bowl champion. He's amazing. I think he's clearly the most talented tight end in the game. And you have this window if he's got a huge extension. Why sell? Well, I think you know why we're selling. Because this is the last chance you can get top-tier capital back. Unless you are ready to win the league right now, you should sell him. If you are ready to win the league, I totally get it. I think you should hold him, get his points per game, and if the season falls apart on you, you're going to be able to trade him later as a super premium asset. But you got to get out while you can. If you're going to have if you're going to keep your contending window open, you're going to have to do like a mini 1 year, hey, if it's not coming together this year, got to find windows to flip your assets like Kelce or risk a longer rebuild. You're saying you're burning this season if you get rid of Kelce. The year he falls off, you might burn that year and the next year if you don't have the ability to recoup assets quick. And I think that's why we do this whole segment is just finding market opportunities. And there's an opportunity to get more than you would for him. So let's take it. How do we sell? Well, post-rookie draft where some people didn't get to solve their tight end problem, and they're looking at their starting roster, they're looking at their week 1 matchup, they're looking to piece together hey, that's icky what I'm looking at tight end. I don't like that. They would like to make some moves there, right? They might be in a mood to go ahead and give you that 25 first for Kelce. I don't think you can get more than a first for him. I've tried in a few places, I just haven't been able to get it. I think this is a spot where you can absolutely get a 2025 first for Travis Kelce as people go into the season. And they're like, look, yep, firsts are great. We just went through that season, but now I'm looking at he's got a 2-year extension. I think everyone thinks their team's ready to go because they are higher on all their players. If the tight end's the missing spot, a lot of glimmer at the right time, I think you can get pretty good stuff. I wouldn't send offers everywhere, but I would get feelers and messaging. Because if everyone knows you're trying to sell, it's just this game of like, I'm going to wait you out then. You're going to take less because you're going to have to. So don't go crazy. I would just message some people that are clearly tight end deficient, see if they're in the market, right? You might be up to making a deal. Start with softer offers. Ideally, you have Kelce plus another interesting piece, and maybe you look to move that other piece for something they're not going to accept, and then eventually you have I'm really into such and such high-end piece on their team, or like I would really love to go after a first next year. I don't know if it's going to happen this year. I consider selling Kelce. How you like Kelce? Yeah, of course I love Kelce. I love, and that's how you kind of put that deal together. Okay? A lot of stuff you could do. And you could probably do a tear down of a lot of sorts, right? If you can get a 2025 first, and I always try to throw a third in everything, great. I don't think you're going to get a first and second. You ask for a first and second to settle for a first and a third, or maybe just a first and a small piece. I would tear down. I'd flip him for Hockenson, plus a second. I think you can get that done all day. If you can go down to like a Jake Ferguson plus a couple seconds, I think you can get that done. I think that's pretty fantastic. If they're tight end needy and you're QB needy, maybe you can go after a Levis or Nix and get a piece back. I think you can do better than straight up for those guys for sure, especially for Levis. Nix is going to be maybe a little bit tougher. Maybe Levis in a second, Nix in a third. I think you can get that done. The value ranges on Kelce are huge. I mean, some people are like, I'll give you a second and that's it because he's dust. With the extension, I think you can do a lot better. So those are just some ideas there. And rounding it off, hot take, but I think it's time to sell Sam LaPorta. I know, unanimous Dynasty #1 tight end. He's going in the third round, the middle, like 305, I think, in startups right now. I think his price has hit an outrageous high, the Mahomes high, as I call it, because I draft a lot of Mahomes to then sell him for a magical haul of just crazy values of assets. I think Sam LaPorta has hit this point at the tight end position. I love Sam LaPorta, but I also love what you can get for him right now. So why is everyone high on him? See, tight end 1 season as a rookie, unanimous tight end 1 in Dynasty. He's attached to in my opinion, probably a top 5 to 7 offense with a very condensed target share that didn't add any weapons, and it looks every bit likely that he can repeat the same numbers, if not better, than he did last year. Literally all upside, no red flags. Coach loves him, team loves him. The team's pretty set for a while. Except the one thing they're not set on is defense, which is pretty great for LaPorta. So all good stuff. Why are we selling? Well, like I mentioned, I think the hype is at a level where you can get an unreasonable haul back. In keep trade cuts, I have seen him get ranked above Puka, above Garrett Wilson. I've seen him ranked above Kyler Murray. Right? These are second round Dynasty startup picks that people are in keep trade cut putting them actually above. They're putting LaPorta above them. So he's being ranked along with like second round Dynasty startup guys. And I even think at the 305 that's too early for him. I'm only selling for the full haul. I'm not selling LaPorta for face value. I don't think that's worth it. But because of just how magical the best player at the position is, how Mahomes or Allen is at quarterback, how he is now at tight end like Kelce was 2 years ago, right? How Christian McCaffrey is at running back, or from a dynasty standpoint, right? How Brees and Bijan are at the position. There's magic. Jefferson at wide receiver like last year, right? This untouchable, like 4 firsts minimum for Jefferson, was a quote I'd hear around a lot. So because of that, I think you're going to go for the full haul. He's a sell now because of the full haul, where I don't think McBride and Kincaid and those guys who are kind of the 2 and 3, they're not going for the same magical value that LaPorta is. So we see what we can get, right? Here's what I would be trying to go after, right? I would try to tier down to like Ferguson, Freiermuth, Benson at right our favorite buy lows. Benson is not a buy low because he's not cheap enough to be a buy low. Otherwise, he would be. I think you can realistically get 2 firsts plus those guys, and I'm so happy with that. If I can get 2 firsts plus a reasonable weapon and tier down from him, I'm super happy with that. If the Bowers owner is just not loving all the negative feedback of Bowers, Vegas, and Bowers is kind of the guy that people felt like they had to take in drafts, but probably are in some cases regretting it, I think you can get Bowers plus a first, probably and a third for Sam LaPorta. I think you can definitely get that done, and I would do it in a heartbeat. There's some straight ups that I think you can do for Sam LaPorta that I would personally do. Right? I would flip him for Rome. Given that Rome goes after him in startup drafts, maybe you can even get Rome plus. I would flip him for Olave. I would flip him for London. If you can, I would flip him for Neighbors or Waddle. I don't think you can in every instance, but those are some one-offs that I absolutely love. And again, I think you can get more than just that. I don't think it's just straight up. I think all these top-end wide receivers, I think you can ask for more. I think you can probably get a second on top of them in some cases. There's a tier of like a lower-end wide receiver that you can tier down to, but you like them. Like I like Flowers and Pickens a lot. I like Tank Dell a lot. If I can get one of them plus a first and a second for LaPorta, I would seriously consider that. If I can get Zay Flowers, Pickens, or like Addison plus a first and a second for LaPorta, I'm doing that too. So again, be careful. This is where you can't ask for too much. I'm asking for the absolute full haul. I'm kind of trying to talk. I don't want to say like Sam LaPorta for 4 firsts. I'm trying to give you guys realistic targets to hit, but I'm asking for the full haul. I'm going for 3+ full firsts of value for him and seeing. Not everyone in your league. Some people are going to call you crazy, and you're probably going to be crazy in some instances. But when you have this magical number one at the position as a rookie, overnight celebrity in the Dynasty community, I think you go for it. I think you can pull off crazy deals. Crazy deals. Mid-season, with Rome not super producing right away or Caleb with a slow start, do I think you can get Rome plus a first? Olave slow start? Could I get Olave plus a first for LaPorta? Yeah, I think you can. I think that would be just fantastic. So those are some ideas. Don't sell for less, but definitely sell high on Sam LaPorta. I'll tell you what, I don't think he I would bet against him finishing as the fantasy tight end 1 this year. And I think there's just equal a chance that by the start of next season, is he the Dynasty tight end 1? Is it Dalton Kincaid? I think it very well could be. Is it going to be McBride over in Arizona? It could be. It still probably is LaPorta, but if you put him against the field, him up against Pitts and McBride and Kincaid, Bowers hiding in there, I think it's more of a big tier at the top, but you can just get more for LaPorta, where I think he fades not into obscurity, but fades into a wider tier where his value won't be the same next year. So eat while you can. Anyway, it's been real. Appreciate hanging out, talking a little bit of buy low, sell high. Let me know in the comments if you think I'm crazy, if you think I'm right, who was your favorite take, did you make any trades for these people? Love some feedback, whether you super agree or super disagree. Let's have a chat about it. And if you'd be so kind, it means a ton to me. Please do throw a subscription if you have a time to click the button there. If you like the way I think, maybe you want to check out some more videos. Makes sense to sub anyways, but yeah, really appreciate that. Drop a comment. Let me know how it's going. And if you guys want to see different sorts of series or videos, throw that in the comments or message me on Sleeper. Check out the description. And, at this point, I'm still new to the content creator journey, so I'm a super fan of fantasy football content. So I'm trying to make stuff I'm passionate about, takes that I'm passionate about that I want to spread throughout the community. But I also want it to be entertaining and enjoyable, and I'd love to work on kind of building a little community of my own of like-minded people. So if there's video content sort of ideas, topics, takes that you've seen maybe other folks do that you want my particular take on, same segment, different take, let me know in the comments. Drop me a message on Sleeper. We can work something like that out. So cheers. Have a great recording this on Thursday. So wherever you are, have a great rest of your day.